Not long ago, I overheard two people in a store talking about a friend of theirs. And they were talking about this friend who basically was a know it all personality. And this personality just infuriated them. And no matter what they said, the other person just wouldn't listen. They couldn't get through to them. I'm Dr. Seth, psychologist, and I thought there was value in us taking a moment today and talking a little bit about the personality that people think of as this know it all personality, somebody who always has to have everything figured out, has to always have the last word, has to, have the loudest voice and really make sure, especially if they're in a group of people, that what they say goes. They've got the definitive thing to say on it. They've got the period at the end of every sentence when everybody's sharing their opinions or their beliefs. Here's what I think is really interesting and paradoxical about the know it all personality. A lot of times, the person who tries to come across this way, they work very hard to appear in control, masterful, intelligent, important, powerful, and really special. And I would argue more special than most other people. They really need to present that image. What I would say, though, is actually to keep up that image, it's a lot of work. That can take a lot of energy and be very, very draining for the person to always have to feel on their guard in that way. You have to wonder when someone acts like that, why? Why do they need to feel so important? Why do they need to be singled out as someone who is so special? Why do they need to have the last word? Did they, for example, come from families growing up where maybe somebody made them feel like their thoughts and their opinions weren't important? Possibly. Maybe did somebody in their family actually do the opposite and make them feel like they were a little king or queen and make them feel like they were superior, more special than everybody else in the house? That's possible too. There are lots of different reasons why we all have the personality that we have. For the person, though, who needs to come across as a know it all, I think that this is ultimately a very lonely and isolating personality. It can really isolate that person from others. And here's what's really interesting. Actually, what a lot of people really find attractive and appealing emotionally in someone is sometimes the ability to say, I don't know, the ability to show a little vulnerability. Now, sure, a lot of times people do find confidence and self esteem attractive, yes, but not 100% of the time, not in every single situation. And a personality who sometimes gets known as a sort of know it all personality, they often get stuck acting this way most, if not all, of the time. In fact, it can become a little rigid, almost like a gear they're stuck in. So if you spend so much time really needing to fight for your point, fighting to win, fighting to make sure that everybody understands how important you are, it can be very difficult to say in other situations, you know what, in this situation, I need to get unstuck from that gear and actually do the opposite of what I almost always do and show a little vulnerability. It can be very difficult to do that, of course. So, what happens is the person almost addictively gets stuck in this pattern of just always needing to master everything, always needing to know the answer. And it's a lot of pressure they put on themselves. My final reminder here is if you are someone that always feels that need to be right, to know everything, if you've gotten feedback from others in your life that you do kind of have that know it all personality, I would like to remind you that actually, if sometimes you can let your guard down and say, you know what, I don't know, or even better, ask the other person or people you're with, does anybody else know? What do you all think? Really cater to the others. Give other people a chance to talk and reflect. And you can show that you have the capacity to listen because other people's opinions are valid and interesting. It can be really good for the emotional intimacy in your relationships, your one on one relationships, your friendships. It can be good for all of them. And it can also make people feel like, wow, I see this quality that is adorable, that is likable. And I believe that everybody deserves to have those qualities.